Good morning, freaks, geeks, degenerates, internet weirdos, basement dwellers, and just freaky people in general, and all you scrufftards as well. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And we're gonna take a look at Tetkino and SUMY Oblast that I have talked about being Battle of Cannae 2.0, where the Ukrainians pushed into Kursk and then fell back and waited for Russians to follow them into this cauldron where Ukraine could then just hammer the Russians and counterattack. And we might be seeing evidence of this happening. So why don't we take a look at it? And we're going to be using my map. Not much else is happening along the other parts of the front line that I could see. Maybe I've missed something, but it's Russia's made these small pushes here and there. Nothing major on the larger scale of things. So we're going to be focusing on Tetkino and SUMY Oblast, and let's see what's going on up here. So we're going to begin with Tetkino, where Ukraine has pushed in. And when we take a look at Andrew Perpetua's map, we now have confirmation that Ukraine has pushed into the graveyard and is in control of the graveyard. This should be... Hello? What's this? I have messed up with my lines. There you go. Yeah, as you can imagine, when I draw my lines and maps, it's a bit tedious. You can see here I'm trying to follow outlines where you can actually cover where infantry can defend territory and what have you, right? So it takes time. Anyway, so we have confirmation from Andrew Perpetua that the graveyard and more than likely the surrounding buildings here, they are occupied and held by Ukraine. And Andrew also has this part of the outskirts of Tetkino as under Ukrainian control. And that seems to suggest that Ukraine is also in control of these trees over here. So I added them to Ukraine's area of control. No confirmation yet from the other mappers that Ukraine is operating up here. But we know that Ukraine is contesting the factory, according to several sources, including Deep State, Andrew Perpetua, and so on. And if Ukraine can contest the factory, that means they can move up to the factory. They have a couple of options doing so. Maybe here, I'm not sure. This bridge down here was blown up during the initial Kursk incursion, so as was this bridge. So I'm thinking that they have pushed up through this forested area here, meaning they have control of the road here and can push, or street rather, and they can then push up through the forest to reach the factory in the middle of town and contest it, right? So that is what we're seeing. Ukraine expanding now territory in Kursk, or in, well, it is in Kursk, in Tetkino, and threatening Russian positions. Not many updates over here. Ukraine is holding this part of the battlefield, potentially pushing up to threaten this road leading into town. And if Ukraine can do that, then Russia is in trouble, then Russia is cut off. Andrew Perpetua has this entire area here as contested by Ukraine. We're not seeing that on any other maps. So it's a bit unclear why that is. But I think, if I'm not entirely mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, that Andrew relies on artillery strikes. He checks satellite images for artillery strikes to find out where artillery is aimed at, and then he can determine if some areas are contested or under control and what have you. But if we don't have any other indications that anything is happening, it could simply be that the artillery aimed over here, if it's Ukrainian artillery aimed at Volfinsky and the windbreaks over here, that could simply mean that Ukraine is aiming artillery at, for instance, this forest here with all these towns, because they assume that there are more than likely Russians over here, so they're just shelling the crap out of them, just to protect their positions over here. Because artillery is traditionally, you don't always need a confirmed target to call in artillery. You might just call in artillery to, if I was the enemy, I would be hiding on that hill, because from there I could be firing at enemies advancing over fields and what have you. So preemptively call in artillery just in case there are enemies over there, right? So maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe it is Ukraine launching preemptive strikes with artillery all over the place, just in case the Russians are maneuvering over here, trying to move in on these positions. The interesting thing is, though, if it is Russian artillery that Andrew is seeing, but he can't determine who is actually firing, that would suggest that Ukraine has pushed out to this area, unless it is the Russians who are preemptively firing artillery at these windbreaks to prevent the Ukrainians from leaving this area over here, right? So the Ukrainians are dug in here. Russia doesn't want them to push out, so Russia might be shelling the windbreaks in this area to prevent the Ukrainians from pushing out and leaving, right? So that's why trusting artillery strikes might be problematic to determine where enemies are positioned and what have you, since artillery could be used against an empty hill, simply to deny the area or deny the enemy to make use of that hill, even if the enemy is nowhere near the hill itself in reality, right? You get my point. So unclear why he has the area over here listed as contested. But keep that in mind, that Andrew, who is a good mapper, who often gets things correct and is on top of things, he has this area over here contested, which is interesting. Ukraine is still holding on to territory over here. We know they pushed into Novi Put. We know they have secured this forested area here, and they have expanded outward, maybe even pushed into these windbreaks, and maybe securing this entire corner here along the border. Which of course is a problem for the Russians. That means Russia must allocate troops and artillery and what have you, and drones to contend with these Ukrainians, meaning less resources to contend with Ukrainians pushing in around Tetkino. So yeah, that would be that. Now we're moving over to the SUMY incursion, where the Russians pushed in aggressively, and Russia has had some successes of late over here. They pushed into Yunakivka, into Kindrativka, but since then things have slowed down, and they really haven't made all that much headway. Like I said, they have. The latest is that they pushed into this valley and these woods here. I haven't properly mapped it out. Ugh, annoying. Anyway, they've taken the valley and the woods here, and they've pushed across here, across the border here. And so it seems as if they might be trying to push in towards Sadki, these wooded hills surrounding Sadki. There's a large valley. You can see the brown line is the bottom of the valley leading all the way to Sadki, the small village. And I think this is troublesome. Like I've always said, I expect Russia to push down to these towns and villages. Then they might have issues crossing the field leading down to the forest, the large forest and the towns down here. But if Russia can come into Sadki, they are in the forest. They can bypass the open territory, and here they can rely on superior numbers to spread out, outflank, and outmaneuver Ukrainian positions in these woods. Not so out in the fields. Here the Russians have to move along the windbreaks or run the gauntlet with their vehicles across the open spaces. Much more difficult and dangerous for the Russians pushing across these fields compared to moving through cover and assaulting trench lines and pushing into those trench lines in the forest. So this is a potential problem for the Ukrainians if Russia pushes in and grabs Sadki, and from here, if they want to push on, then they can move through the woods and come in south of all these towns here in Sumy Oblast. We'll see what happens. But the interesting thing is, apart from Russia pushing out here, is Andrivka. Here, Ukraine has made a counterattack. Geolocated footage shows us how Ukraine is taking prisoners in Andrivka, and we also have images of Russian casualties in this small village. So Ukraine has successfully pushed back into this small village, secured it. The Russians are, as we suspected, struggling, pushing south into this area. And the reason is, like I pointed out before, so I'm going to repeat it, because you're going to piss off a couple of Vatniks and they're going to go, what are you talking about? So I'm going to repeat this once again. When Ukraine pushed into Kursk up here, they understood that eventually they would be forced out, right? Russia would in time move in as many troops as needed to force Ukraine out. Russia would not allow Ukraine to hold Russian territory. That meant at some point Ukraine would be forced back into Sumy Oblast and then have a huge Russian army right on the border. And that army would more than likely follow the Ukrainians into Sumy Oblast. So this is essentially the third stage of the Kursk incursion. The first stage was to push in and try and secure territory. The second stage was then to hold for as long as possible while doing tactical withdrawal, fighting withdrawals back to the border and back into Sumy Oblast. That would be inevitable. Russia would just pile in troops to get this done, which was part of the plan. Hold territory and force Russia to move troops from within Ukraine and move them into Russia, tie them up, lock them down, and force Russia to waste troops and manpower within Russia instead of expanding territory in Ukraine, right? So that was the second stage of the Kursk incursion. Slowly fall back in a fighting withdrawal until you're back in Sumy, right? And since the Ukrainians knew that they would be fighting in Sumy, they more than likely have prepared defenses. They held territory, proper territory in Kursk for roughly 10 months. And in that time, they had 10 months to prepare defenses within Sumy to deal with this eventual, more than likely, Russian push. So every square inch here is more than likely pre-sighted for artillery, for airstrikes and drone strikes and mortar strikes. And you have more than likely excellent fire positions for the Ukrainians. They know where to set up anti-tank guided missiles, to have overlapping fields of fire, where to set up machine guns to cover approach points along windbreaks and what have you. And this is what I mean by the Battle of Cannae. This famous battle between Carthage and Rome, where the Carthaginians, with Hannibal as the general, according to legend, arranged his forces in a bulge outward curve, and the Romans in a straight line. The Romans marched straight at the Carthaginians. So here we go. The Ukrainians had the bulge, and just like Hannibal, according to legend, the defending army fell back under pressure of the attacking army until you had the bulge inverted in reverse, and now you had a bowl-shaped formation trapping the enemy in that bowl, and you can now start to cut them down. And the numbers, the superior numbers of the enemy was now working against them as they were pushing into this cauldron where the Carthaginians at Cannae just obliterated the Romans. And that is kind of what we're seeing here in Sumy, with the Ukrainians creating this bowl where they have trapped the Russians. The Russians have pushed in to territory that the Ukrainians are simply hammering with artillery. And having, excellent fire positions all over the place. And now, as a consequence, Ukraine has been able to push back and take this village of Andriivka while, hammering Russian positions all over the place here. We also had a report, is it a week ago by now? 2 weeks? By a Swedish author, Lars Wildereng, who has contacts down in Ukraine, and he supports supply efforts and fundraising and stuff like that for Ukraine. And his contacts had told him that Ukraine has gathered huge amounts of artillery to this area, and they are focusing on destroying the Russians with artillery in SUMY Oblast. And so Ukraine was still in Kursk when I was talking about the possibility of Ukraine falling back to defend this area, and it looks like that prediction ended up being true, and we're seeing the consequences of it. Russia is being, beaten to a pulp in SUMY Oblast, and Ukraine has now begun counterattacking, reclaiming villages. And Andriivka has been talked about for some time, that Ukraine was back in Andriivka. So we'll see if the other rumors of Ukraine being back in Oleksivka may end up being true or not in a couple of days. Interesting, if we zoom in on Andriivka, you can see here Russia has few options in reaching Andriivka. This valley looks to be pretty flat and wide, and with very little cover. Russia approaching from the north looks like a dangerous approach. They might come down these windbreaks, but then they have to cross the farmland to reach cover. Their best approach would be through Oleksivka along this windbreak here, coming into Andriivka through this narrow approach point. And I mean, imagine if you're Russians pushing along here and you have Ukrainian machine gunners down here, Ukrainian machine gunners up here, and I mean, it is, it's a dangerous approach for the Russians, to say the least. And the Ukrainians do have the opportunity to maybe push up this way and secure this windbreak, at which point Russia has very few options in reaching Andriivka. So a good move by Ukraine pushing in here, and we'll see if they can manage to push into Oleksivka in the next coming days, or if Russia will hold the line in this small village. Yunakivka and Kindrativka appears to be contested. Russia has secured half of those larger settlements, but Ukraine is holding on to territory as well. And in the center, the Varachny center, Ukraine is holding the line along this very prominent and important valley. I've talked about this before. Down here you have a huge ridgeline in this forest that overlooks much of the area surrounding it up here. And Russia appears to have issues pushing past Novomykolaivka and Yablonivka. This valley here is central for the Ukrainian defense here in SUMY Oblast. So quite interesting. And just double checking that I was recording, but I've been recording for 18 minutes. Good. But yeah, that's the front line in SUMY. Elsewhere, as far as I've noticed, not much has happened. Maybe I should double check that and add a thing or two if something interesting has happened. No, didn't see anything really along on the other maps there. Not much changing along the front line, so we're gonna stick with what we got, taking that closer look at SUMY Oblast and Tetkino. So that's gonna have to be it. As always, go po marsh, Ukraine, and give them hell.